Good morning, everyone, and happy holidays. I'm Lyndall Stout. We hope you're having a wonderful Christmas season. We join you today from Stillwater Milling Company, the perfect place with the hustle and bustle of a feed store to talk about the economic situation. Joining us now are some of our ag economic specialists. We have Larry Sanders, who focuses on ag policy, Kim Anderson, our grain and crop marketing specialist, and Darrell Peel, who is our livestock marketing specialist. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. For me, the big stories of 2012, without question, drought, prices, and there was something called a presidential election that we definitely talked about. As we start our discussion this morning, let's begin with the drought discussion, because no doubt that is affecting a lot of people across Oklahoma. Kim, why don't you weigh in to start with the crop impact?
Well, the drought had multiple impacts on the crops, depending on whether it was summer crop or winter crop. And one thing we got to remember on the drought, it was our second year of droughts, especially in the wheat market. Now, as far as wheat production, our wheat production was relatively good. We got timely rains. Even though we were in the top 3 tiers of drought conditions, we still produced a relatively good wheat crop. I think the big impacts on drought from a wheat perspective is that we got the crop. But when you get into the summer crops, the cotton, the corn, the soybeans, the milo, we had short crops on them because of the drought. And then if you look across the United States, the impact it had on the corn crop, a very, very short corn crop, and that had an impact on our crop prices later in the year. So the impact, 2 years in a row, relatively good production, but the long-term impact is from the national drought, 60% of the United States in drought condition.
And obviously drought, again, playing in the livestock area.
Absolutely. It was the second year of drought. And you know, the 2 years of drought, 2011 and 2012, from a livestock perspective, were kind of a study in contrast. You know, this was another year of drought, but because we did have some winter moisture, we did have some early spring forage production, and we had some winter wheat to graze during the winter last year. 2011 was a big year of liquidation because we had no spring and we liquidated a lot of animals. And because we had done that, 2012, we were able to get through most of 2012 from a livestock perspective in Oklahoma with relatively little additional liquidation. Tough year. We didn't have a lot of forage. We could see it was getting dry. The second half of the year was very traditional kind of drought in that it's gotten tougher and tougher. And the thing is, now we find ourselves here at the end of the year with a dry winter in the making, and the conditions now are every bit as severe from a cattle perspective as they were at any time during 2011, even though all in all it's probably not been as tough a year to get to this point, but it doesn't bode well from this point forward given the conditions that we find ourselves in today.
And obviously, Larry, from a policy point of view, thank goodness for crop insurance.
Yes, you know, I think that if producers needed a reminder of how important risk management is, unfortunately they're getting a pretty tough lesson here with this being the second year in a row of this, and it's coming at a time when the policy piece of the puzzle is really falling apart. We've gone a year now without some of the key disaster aid programs out of the Farm Bill. Farm Bill officially has expired, and while in the short term it's okay on the disaster assistance part, it's been pretty tough, but it's made everybody really focus on the importance of crop insurance. And that's probably one of the reasons where we'll talk in a little bit about why that's become the centerpiece of the next Farm Bill.
Okay. Looking at prices, there were some ups and downs. Kim, we talk to you every week about wheat prices and that old sideways pattern we've talked about a lot about the last few months, but kind of give us a look back.
Well, we came into the harvest under drought conditions, but we got the timely rains. We were having a relatively large crop and expecting a good crop in the United States. Wheat prices were right at $6 per bushel, but from early June or mid-June into July the 19th, wheat prices increased from $6 to $9 a bushel, a 50% increase in wheat prices over that time period, and we already had the crop in the bin. And go back to the drought, it was the impact on corn. And we saw a $3 increase in corn prices over that time period. As you've said, they've been flat since that. that period. But reductions in corn production, the expectations, corn stocks were expected to be 1.8 billion bushels, and they're down around 800 million bushels. Corn prices are supporting the wheat prices, and it's the drought impact on that corn and the potential impact, the poor conditions of the current wheat crop as we're looking to the 13 crop. They're protecting the wheat that's in the bin, and that's holding our prices relatively high, with wheat prices around $8.60.
Okay. Darrell, let's talk about livestock prices. Obviously, the massive sell-off in 2011 and some of that, cattle producers had some cash in hand, but beef prices remaining pretty steady, if not pretty good.
It's amazing. The drought is normally not kind to cattle prices, and even in 2011, which was a bigger year of liquidation than 2012, even in a national perspective, and yet prices have held up well. We set new record prices for feeder cattle, for fed cattle in the spring of 2012, and throughout the year, even though you can pick out some things that you probably would think are drought impacts, we've maintained prices above year-ago levels throughout this process, even with much of the country in drought. And that's a testament to some underlying conditions that were in place before the drought, and that the drought has exaggerated in terms of where we are with cattle numbers. And this is very much a supply-driven industry, and so even with all the adversity of the drought, certainly all the production issues that go with the drought, we're holding up very well on prices, and we will continue to because of that supply situation.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about presidential politics and some of the other factors influencing agriculture. But first, let's take a look at Cow-Calf Corner with Glenn Selk.